Good morning, Alison. How nice to see you. I'm in Ringwood, you're in Fordingbridge, but we're not separated. I'm still looking at a screen, you're looking at a screen. Great to see you, Alison. And
nice to see you too.
The thing is, with this Saturday conversation, it eases us, because if I was to see you outside or inside High Church, it would be just, hi, Alison, how are you? See you again soon, or something like that. Or we might talk about a holiday that we've enjoyed or something like that. But it's Zoom gives us a chance to just find out about each other a bit more. And I know so little about you, and you can feel nice and secure in your study there when I'm chatting to you. Tell us something about your sort of home life. Not so long ago, I know, but that's a compliment.
Well, I was born just before the war. My father was a Church of England ordained priest who was a curate at the time in Liverpool. But he was also in the Territorial Army. So, in fact, when the war broke out, he became a regular chaplain.
All right.
And life from then on was very turbulent, really, for us as a trio, because it was only me. In 1944, he was invalided out of the army. And as a result of that, obviously, he had to move into a living. That was quite traumatic for him one way or another because of his health. And actually, my own health was not good either, I'm afraid. I was described as a sickly child for a few years. But however, in 1948, he really didn't feel comfortable in Civvy Street. He'd recovered, and he actually went back into the forces, into the RAF.
Oh, great.
And more movement,
Yeah.
as always. But the significant part for me was I don't honestly remember much at all about church and anything to do with church as a child, because I was very confined to home and hospital. And then the one thing I do remember is that when my father was posted to Egypt when I was 12, I went out with my mother as well, and one of the things he created in Egypt, because these were national service airmen, were big fellowships.
Oh, right.
And they were really very active. They were great to belong to. The church was vibrant. That's when I really remember becoming a Christian.
Yeah.
And joined the choir. My mother created a choir. And that was the situation for me for 3 years in Egypt, really, although we did move around a bit. And then one of the highlights of that 3 years in Egypt was that my father managed to organise a trip to Jerusalem for a plane load of national service personnel. And luckily, my mother and I went as well. We flew to Amman and then down to Jerusalem. Now, we're talking about 1952. So Jerusalem was a split city then, but we stayed in, is it St. George's Hostel or St. George's? Yes. You know it.
Yes, the hostel attached to the cathedral.
That's right, yes. Well, we stayed there for the week, and the cathedral's a lovely church.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah, and then we actually went round with a guide for the whole week.
Wonderful.
And it was very awe-inspiring for me. It was very quiet. There were no tourists. I remember walking the length of the Via Dolorosa with the others, and there was nobody. There was just us walking. So I know you have organised trips to Jerusalem, well, not to Jerusalem, but to Israel, which of course includes Jerusalem. And I know it was mentioned to me, but I just had this feeling I didn't want to lose that wonderful contact that I remember so well.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, because you were there 10 years before me. I first went in 64, and again it was more locals than tourists, and nowadays we take a group of tourists, but I end up saying it's a lovely land, but it's a pity about the tourists, to get in the way.
I'm sure.
That's being very selfish, because everybody wants to see the sights, but there's nothing like meeting the people. And I can, we spent time with the Israelis on the borders with Jordan and so on. And there's nothing like meeting the people, is there? It's much quieter when you were there.
Yeah, very quiet, yes. But we visited all the key parts, really. It was, as I say, it was a divide. I think the Wailing Wall was the only piece that we didn't actually visit. Well, I may be wrong about that.
Yeah, that would have, in those days, had houses very much up to it, and probably Jews only, really, along the Wailing Wall. Yeah. So when you finished with the sort of Middle East and Egypt, you went into education in England, did you?
Well, my education wasn't good, and my father, I think, I mean, in Egypt, it was only in the mornings, so I indulged in swimming and riding horses the rest of the day. But my father had organised me to go to a boarding school because he was worried, because by that time I was 15.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, he sent me to an Anglo-Catholic convent in Whitby in Yorkshire.
Wonderful.
That was a bit of a shock. You know, I'd been out in Egypt with a lot of national service airmen of various ages, and here I was in a totally female environment. However, I can say now that thanks to them, I did get a very good education, and I managed to get the qualifications I required. But the religious side, the spiritual side of the school was quite intense and very, very busy from the point of view we had to go to everything that was going on. I think the only difference was we didn't live in a cell. But it was an interesting, and I was there till about 18 and a half. And then I left there to go and do my nurse training.
Yeah. Tell us about that, because you said you're getting your qualifications, but nursing took up quite a chunk of your earlier life, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I did my general training, but I was in London and I didn't like London. I'm afraid I didn't fall in love with it at all. And I gradually got to the stage where I thought this nursing isn't for me. And when I finished training, I left, and my father was back home by that time, and I went and lived with them in Rutland for a year. I did do a job for a year, and then I thought I can't go on like this. So in the end, I decided to do my midwifery training, and I never looked back, because that has been my career, was my career.
So how long were you a midwife then?
Sorry?
How long were you a midwife?
All my life.
Oh,
all my working life.
okay.
Not practicing at the end. I mean, in actual fact, I practiced for a number of years, and I moved around quite a bit. It was in the blood, I think. But that was all to my advantage. I did do my tutor training, which I wanted to do because I'd been out in New Zealand for 3 years, and they needed British trained midwives, preferably who could teach.
Yeah.
But I had to come home after 3 years because my mother was in failing health. And although I did the training and did become a tutor, I actually didn't manage to get back to New Zealand.
No.
And then, of course, gradually throughout my career, I just entered into the realms of management. I was actually, an interesting part of it was I was actually managing the whole of the nursing and midwifery services in the New Forest.
Oh, right.
It was some time ago.
Yes. And marriage fitted in somewhere along the lines.
Yes. Yes. I met my husband as a result of Marie Curie, I have to say, because his partner, they weren't man and wife, but they were partners for 17 years. And in actual fact, she was dying of cancer, and I was an agent for Marie Curie. In my job as running the services in the forest. And as a result, when she died, he started raising a lot of money for Marie Curie in big ways. But I got married at the age of 40 because he was very persuasive. And
it's typical men, you know, we are persuasive.
And he was 18 years older than me. But he was a very active man. And in actual fact, in terms of age and everything, it didn't seem to be a problem. And even when he retired at 65, he had no intention of stopping, and he continued working full time till he was 80.
Yeah.
So he was a good, strong man, yes.
Yeah.
And I continued with my career.
Yeah. And when you retired, you obviously brought the gifts that you'd had in nursing and so on, and the background of the vicarage and what have you, into your present. What would you say your gifts are now that you would share in Fordingbridge and hide elsewhere around the team?
It's a difficult one, isn't it, gifts, when somebody asks you what gifts have you got? I love people. My church has grown over the years, but it has been difficult because when I've moved around, it's been quite spasmodic. But in actual fact, interestingly enough, my job in the New Forest included district nursing, managing district nursing, and I trained as a district nurse as well. And so I loved older people, older than me. And then I find that I really enjoyed company with them. And as a result, I feel that I if it's a gift, I have a gift of enjoying and being with people and hopefully just making my life interesting and their life a bit more interesting too.
Well done. Yeah, that would, if I could give my experience of you, I'd have said how easy you are to talk to, and you're a listener as well as somebody who gives useful information. Let's put it that way, from your background, if you like. And the gifts, moving on from gifts, you've got hobbies and so on, and things that you enjoy doing, because you're still very active despite being
yes, I used to do a lot of voluntary work in Fordingbridge originally. They've got this day centre and a luncheon club and Meals on Wheels, and I got involved in all of those, as did my husband actually. So I enjoyed that. But as far as me keeping myself interesting, I do a lot of craft. I have done a lot of craft. I'm not doing quite as much now, but I like to get involved in various crafts. I think I describe myself as being a sort of person who does everything but not very good at anything. So that's been something. As far as hobbies are concerned beyond that, I suppose it's mostly to do with crafts and things, really. Yes.
Yeah, good with your hands. But you're a good bowler as well. It's not so much cricket, is it? It's something else.
Yeah. I forgot about bowling. Yes, I joined the bowling club here in Fordingbridge when I could. Actually, I do belong to I'm just about to give it up actually, but I belong to a group called Timber Trundlers. And that's a group of us who play with genuine lignum woods.
Yeah.
We don't have a club. So what happens is we play against other clubs within an area, quite a wide area, and have matches against them. And it's lovely because, of course, you're meeting people in a wider environment than perhaps if I'd been just in Fordingbridge. Yeah. Unfortunately, obviously, this year hasn't helped very much. And as Timber Trundlers, we haven't done anything. No. But I know some of the clubs have managed to carry on.
Yeah. Yes, it reminds me that one of my visual aids I have here is a lignum wood. I can't tell you specifically what it is, you would know, but I remember using it as a visual aid one Sunday, the bias being our bias to sin. And I bowled it down the aisle and everybody was moving their ankles very quickly until one person didn't move their ankle fast enough. So I've never done it again.
They're beautiful woods to bowl with. You can't buy new ones. You have to keep your eye out and buy from other people or whatever.
Yeah.
But they are a lovely wood. Yes.
Yes. I see from my notes that you ventured into two of our holidays, one in the Lake District and one in Devon. Any thoughts on travelling on Christian holidays, or any holidays really for that matter?
Well, apart from, I would describe Jerusalem as a Christian holiday, but apart from that, I haven't been on any of your holidays before I went to the Lake District with you. Yes, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was inspiring and it was such great company. And also, of course, the one in Devon last year. Yeah. So I think they're fantastic holidays that you organise. And Jean, my friend, we both know Jean. Yeah. She was the one that sort of talked me into joining because I hadn't ever done it before. Mm. And she said, why don't you come and have a holiday with us on that? So yeah. Very good, yes.
I think a number of single people enjoy them as well as the couples, but we're just I'm impatient waiting to get the other holidays under our belt because there's one planned for Harrogate and one for Israel and so on. But I think that's one part of COVID that living alone is difficult, but these Zoom meetings, chats are very helpful.
Yes. I haven't sort of I have thought about your plans for next year, but it's coincided at the moment with one I booked a long time ago, and I'll have to sort of make my mind up a bit nearer the time what I really need to do.
You can't do everything. No. Now, the one difference with this conversation is that you've got a prayer ready for the end of our conversation, haven't you?
I have got a little prayer, yes.
Would you like to lead in that before we hand ourselves back to Joe to wind us up?
Yes, I would love to. It's a prayer I discovered a while ago, and it's sort of apt now because I'm doing the BCM, as you know. I'm doing BCM in worship.
Tell us what BCM is.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Bishop's Commission, Bishop's Christian Mission,
Well,
and I'm doing it in worship.
well done. Oh, good.
So this is my prayer. O Lord, I pray that I can always be courageous and master my own life, regardless of whether I succeed in my own sacrifices or be successful in the eyes of the world. It matters who I might become or what I can do one day, if the day is today. With your help, Lord, I can become what you wanted me to be. So tell me what you would have me do, for it is only by making the very best of every single day that I can prepare myself for the days to follow.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Lovely prayer. Thank you so much, Alison. And thank you for being with us this morning. And we look forward to as many people as possible tuning in for another conversation associated with the Fordingbridge group of churches. Thank you so much, Alison. See you again.
Thank you,
soon.
Michael. And I'll see you tomorrow. Well, no, Sunday.
That's right. So we shall. Yeah, all the best. Bye-bye. Thank you
you.
so much. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.